Hello, this is Truth Be Told Transformation. I'm Bonnie Burkert. You were just hearing Jai Uttal with his new song, one of his latest releases, Hanuman Chalisa. Welcome, Jai. We're so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you, Bonnie. It's great to be here. It's great to see you again.
Thanks. It was just a mere snippet, and we weren't actually talking about Hanuman in that actual part of your 16-minute song. Am I right? 14-minute song?
Close to 17.
Oh my gosh. Epic. Epic show.
Very, very anti-algorithmic.
Oh, that's okay. You know what you have to do? That's not a life that we're going to live by right now, right? This is all about devotion. Jai Uttal is a world beloved, Grammy-nominated kirtan chant, devotional chant, world spirit musician. Jai, how many records are we up to now?
I think that's like 22 or something like that. Plus a bunch of singles. But in a way, it's easy. It's easier these days for people, like anyone, to make a CD, to make an album. I have really, really, really tried for every recording that I've done to put as much heart and as much creativity and I don't know, divine energy as I was able, as I am able, and sometimes that's a lot, sometimes that seems to do a little.
Well, that's because you're out there playing for us. I know you're touring. We've had a chance to get you down California. I know I've seen you at Bhakti Fest through the years and things like that. So in the early days of recording, it was very different. We had a quick conversation beforehand talking about how, records can be released more easily these days. An artist can take production into his own hands. So tell me what it's like as far as the creative process for you right now, and then we'll talk specifically about the Hanuman Chalisa.
I actually don't have a home studio, but for me the creative process it's like it's constant every day. Well, I start every day with some singing, and it's kind of both a technical practice and a prayer. I'll sit with my harmonium, the Indian little pump organ, but I never know what I'm going to sing, and literally every day, although I might sing a mantra that I've sung many times before, I'll make up new melodies. So all the time I'll make up new melodies, and then I have a bunch of stringed instruments that I play through the day, and I'm always making new things up. And when something kind of comes through that I really like and that I might want to develop further, then I usually record it either. There's kind of two levels. I'll either just record it in voice memos on my iPhone, or else I'll open my iPad and open up GarageBand and then actually add some layers and add some dimension to it. Now, for Hanuman Chalisa, for a song that's that long, and I should say there's many versions of Hanuman Chalisa out, in the world, and this one I entitled this Hanuman Chalisa for World Peace. When I started working on it, it was about a year ago, and there was so much war happening that I just had to name it that, even though in some ways perhaps it's a cumbersome name. I just have to say, this is why I'm creating this. So what I did was I made a very, very long outline on my GarageBand, on my iPad GarageBand, because Bonnie, I'm a little bit computer phobic. I use my computer, but I don't use it that much. And I find that the digital recording on my computer takes too much brain power and kind of interrupts my creativity. Whereas, I don't know, I'm just very quick with GarageBand on my iPad. So that's what I did. And then, I did a lot of basic, guitar playing and keyboard playing, recording the keyboards on the iPad, and lots of sound effects, which I just kind of love to do. And then I brought it to my friend Ben's studio, and we started laying down real drums and real instruments. And then I took it to another studio, my good friend Jeff, where we recorded vocals and horn section. And, it was pure joy. So that's kind of how the creative process worked with this one.
It's great. And I love the pure joy because you feel it with and I often do in all your releases, but this one's particularly powerful. And Jai, I've long I'd love to chant to mantras. I find that it, for me, is a way to get to meditation so attending a kirtan concert, the call and response, that's one part of it. Or just for me, I was just talking to my team here, Kyle and Noah, about having mantra music on can be very soothing. Some just in the background, maybe doesn't drag my attention away from what I'm doing. And before you know it, I find myself humming along, singing along, uplifting. It's great. Hanuman Chalisa. Okay, so what is a Chalisa, first of all? So
Chalisa means 40. It means, so Hanuman Chalisa means 40 verses in praise of Hanuman.
Okay.
There's Chalisas for all the deities in the Hindu pantheon. But go on, keep asking.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is already a key question. So I did not know what a chalisa was. And the point I would make about it is that it's long. It's 40 verses. It's a lot to to memorize or try to keep up with even if you're reading and trying to chant along in a gathering. So I've tried to do that along the way. So this is one of those mantras that definitely eludes me. So I'd like to say, why don't you talk to us about if you can't quite get to the point of chanting along to the Hanuman Chalisa, what's happening for us as a listener?
Well, that's a great question. And I think the answer is multi-leveled. Let me just kind of backtrack and say that I first started chanting Hanuman Chalisa in 1972 when I was in India with Neem Karoli Baba, my guru. Hanuman Chalisa, well, Hanuman is one of the most popular deities, beings in India, and I think in the Indian diaspora all around the world, or I should say Hindu diaspora. And the Hanuman Chalisa is chanted in so many temples and in so many melodies and rhythms and just moods. Neem Karoli Baba urged us to sing Hanuman Chalisa, and he said he and my spiritual mother Siddhi kind of recommended it as a remedy for all ailments. And he said you don't realize it, but that every word in this Chalisa is a powerful transformational mantra. So I started singing it that trip in India. And I wasn't trying to memorize it, but I had the words, and I was staying in a Hanuman temple because Maharaji's temples were primarily Hanuman temples. So, I was really being exposed and appreciating and kind of imbibing this full energy of Hanuman while I was learning the prayer. When I got back to America, me and some friends had several gatherings where we sang the Chalisa 108 times. And so, at first, that was a pretty much 10-hour, 12, a full day experience.
Incredible.
Later, I learned to sing Hanuman Chalisa much faster, and I could do 108 in shorter time. But those first sessions were very, very powerful, and I would say that's where the memorization began to take hold. But when I sing the Chalisa, and I sing it every day, there's not a day that has gone by in so many decades where I haven't sung it. And sometimes I sing it, full voice, full energy, and sometimes I just almost whisper it as a very more introverted approach of the prayer. But it's become a almost like a molecular. Uh, so what's the word I'm looking for?
Like conduit.
No, and I was going to say the firmament of the home. It's become the ground that kind of holds me and that I could kind of situate myself in.
Yeah.
Hanuman Chalisa has just become part of the air that I breathe, and it's also always a very powerful connection that I feel singing it to my guru. So, you know, it's a big part of my practice for what are we talking about, like 55 or so years on a daily basis. Now, the other thing is the Hanuman Chalisa can be sung or as I said, whispered in the most simple way. But I also wanted to embellish it and add as much musicality and as much, you know, excitement and uh, decorations to it as I was able, because the Hanuman Chalisa tells the story of Hanuman and part of it is praising him and describing him. Part of the prayer is just asking for his blessings, and part of the prayer is talking about his exploits in the epic tale, the Ramayana, the story of kind of you could say the story of God manifesting on earth to defeat evil. And Hanuman uh, was the rescuer. He was the most powerful force in this battle. So I wanted to kind of bring out all those different moods. The mood of praise, the mood of you know supplication, asking for blessings, and also the mood of Hanuman the warrior, and because there's descriptions in the Ramayana of Hanuman in the battles that are just kind of breathtaking. So in order to do that, I didn't feel like I just wanted to have one melody going all the way through. I wanted to have lots of different melodies that kind of elicited different emotions. Because we know, spirituality aside, India aside, mantra aside, music elicits and kind of awakens emotions. And that's just what I love so much, the emotions and the music that ignites the emotions. So, Hanuman Chalisa does not need to be 17 minutes long, but I wanted to add musical segments and also the kirtan segments of the Jai Sitaram, which happens over and over in this version. So I felt that people who didn't know Hanuman Chalisa or found it too difficult to wrap their minds around could also sing along in those kirtan-like sections. I get many like questions, sort of like not complaints so much as people saying like, Jai, I've tried and I've tried and I've tried to memorize Hanuman Chalisa, but I just can't. I'm so frustrated. And I respond by saying, in India, all of the old people, the elders who've been singing Hanuman Chalisa since they were babies, pretty much, they sit in front of the Hanuman temples and they have little books that have the words and they read the words. And I say that, memorization of it is, it's not a goal. It doesn't matter, because I was advised, and I know this to be true, that in Bhakti, I should say in the practices of Bhakti, we engage all of our senses, and the sense of sight really helps concentration. So if I was able to, I would put a booklet with a Hanuman Chalisa that not only had all the words written and the transliteration, but also pictures of the different the different descriptions that are actually in the Chalisa. But we couldn't do that. So
Not yet. Maybe soon. Maybe that's a short film waiting to happen.
maybe it's a short film. Now, I should add that the inspiration or the original reason, perhaps, that I started to compose this Chalisa, this version of the Chalisa, with so many extended interludes and um, reggae sections and kind of almost Brazilian jazz sections, was because my dear friend, a guy named David Kirshner, who is a playwright and a theater director, said to me that he wanted us to work together on creating a theatrical version of the Hanuman Chalisa. We worked together with the Chicago Children's Choir and the Looking Glass Theater. Um, what's like 20 some odd years ago, to create an opera of the Ramayana, which was called Sitaram, and we performed it with, like, the first time was with my full band and 70 kids singing and Indian dancers. It was incredible. We did it 3 years in a row in different places around Chicago.
Wonderful. That's amazing, Jai. How beautiful.
So that's why I thought of putting in the kirtan sections, so that, some of it during the theatrical section, we would have a choir, and some of it would be sung solo, and some of it would be call and response with a choir. And the musical interludes would be theatrical sections. We never like completely fleshed it out, but this is what started me going, and this is why I wanted to make an extended, long form version of the song, of the prayer. We're still the project is still alive, and part of what the way I paid for recording this too is because recording, well, not having a home studio, and actually, to tell you the truth, not wanting to have a home studio, recording does become expensive. But I got a grant from Penn State, like a starter grant, which helped me and David begin to work on the project, and helped me, not the whole of it, but to get one foot into the recording.
Fantastic. That is really amazing, and I hope that you'll bring a production to Los Angeles at some point, and all the cities of all of our listeners, for sure. So, Jai, I would love to talk a bit more specifically about Hanuman, please. Now, I would say, nobody wants to pick favorites. I will tell you that you have a prayer to Saraswati, right? Is one of your songs in your repertoire, right? And that's just one of my favorite of your songs. And so consequently, that has influenced me. Really being down with Saraswati, who is the goddess of music, correct?
Yes,
art,
music, learning, all the arts,
wisdom. So tell us a little bit.
They say that that there was a time when all the universes were in black and white, and then when Saraswati emerged from the head of Brahma, the creator, suddenly the world became colorful.
Oh, fabulous. All the more reason to love her. But the Hanuman Chalisa, if nothing else, there's this Chalisa that everybody is singing and singing and singing to Hanuman. And when I was in Rishikesh, India, I went to a big temple, and there he was, the monkey god. And there was this scary opening of his chest.
Yeah, I know that. Yes,
and
I've
I'm
been
just
there.
like, oh, that opening of the chest, sometimes it's bloody. Talk to me about the story of Hanuman and some of that, and maybe some of the charge that I feel from it. I mean, I feel like the goddesses are all quite lovely and fierce in their own way, but Hanuman, maybe he's just that warrior that you mentioned. The many moods. Tell us.
Well, I need to kind of tell you a little bit about the story. And, so it was a time eons ago, in the Hindu, I should say the Vedic, the ancient Hindu sense of cycles of time is very different than our sense of time. But anyway, so it's way, way back when, but also it could be said to be happening right now in parallel universes and in the future as well. So the times had become very dark. And this demon named Ravana, 10-headed, 20-armed, super powerful manifestation of ego, was taking over the universe. Universes, I should say. So all the gods went to Vishnu. Also, his name is Narayan, and he was relaxing. He was kind of in a semi-sleeping, um, lying in this couch, which was actually the thousand-headed support of the universe, this thousand-headed serpent, Shesha. And they were floating in the ocean of infinite consciousness. Vishnu's beloved, Lakshmi, was giving him a four-armed foot massage because she has four arms. And they were in complete uh, ecstasy. So all the gods come up to Vishnu and say, um, you have to come out of this dream state. Ravana is devouring goodness and devouring dharma and taking over the world with evil. We need you. We need you to manifest in material form and save us. So Vishnu said, of course. And he immediately descended to earth in the form of this blue-skinned, beautiful young man. Well, he was a baby. I mean, he was born actually of a human mother, but he was a blue-skinned divine human being. And his beloved Lakshmi said, well, if you're going down to earth to manifest as a human, I'm going too. So she became located in a different part of India, but not so far. And she was a little baby girl who was found in the furrows in the field by her father, by her man who would become her father. So this story begins to evolve. But Lord Shiva, they call him the god of destruction, but it's destruction that makes room immediately for recreation. He's up in his mountain home in Mount Kailash, and he sees that Vishnu has gone to earth to save the world from evil. And he says, oh, I want to come and help. I want to help you because, they say Shiva loves Vishnu so much and Vishnu loves Shiva so much. There's Narayan. That's Vishnu. Yeah, with the thousand-headed serpent. That's a beautiful picture. Anyway, so Shiva says, okay, I'm going to come to earth as the most fiercest warrior ever conceived, and I'm going to help Rama. Vishnu took the name of Rama. But then he thinks, no, this is Vishnu's play, so to speak. So I don't want to. I want to come to earth in a form that seems to be lesser than Vishnu. So he says, I think I'm going to come to earth as a monkey. So that monkey is Hanuman. And a couple of things happen. Well, certainly Hanuman is as an incarnation of Shiva. He is immortal and he has the vast superpowers that Lord Shiva has. Victory over time itself. So Hanuman's born and he's a little monkey and he's very mischievous with all these powers. And one day he's as a baby he's being rocked in the cradle by his mother, and his mother steps aside to check on the porridge that she's making for her little baby Hanuman. And Hanuman is hungry and he sees the sun coming up. And he mistakes it for a sweet fruit, and he jumps into the air and takes a bite out of the sun, plunging the world into darkness. Now, all of this is spoken of or sung in the Hanuman Chalisa. The 40 verses tell a lot of this story. So when the world is plunged into darkness, Indra, Indra is called the Lord of the demigods. Indra, he's the one who takes care. He's the the governor, kind of. He takes care of the rains. He takes care of the planets going in the right orbits. He takes care of business. So when Hanuman, by eating this bite of the sun, plunged the world into darkness, Indra was infuriated, and he threw his lightning bolt at this baby flying in the sky, and Hanuman fell to earth. And when he landed on earth, he broke his jaw. Uh, Now, the word in Sanskrit for broken jaw is Hanuman, so that's how he got his name. And his father, Vayu, the wind god, the birth of Hanuman is very complicated, and I won't go into it. But his father was infuriated that Indra had hurt his son. As any father, this is a very, very human emotion. So he takes the baby, Hanuman, he takes him into a cave underneath the earth, and he withdraws all the air from all of the universes. Um, you know, so everything started to keel over and die. So Brahma and all the other gods came down to this underworld place and said to Vayu, Hanuman's father, please, please, please release the air, because Vayu is the god of air. And Vayu said, only I will release the air only if Indra apologizes and every god and goddess gives their particular power and their weapon to my son. So that's what happened. And Hanuman, became all powerful, but it was still quite mischievous. And at one point he received a curse because he was troubling all the saints and the sages and the ancient yogis. He was wreaking havoc and destroying their concentration and just messing them up. So he received a curse that said, you will forget your power until the day that the Lord himself asks you for help. So anyway, time passed, a lot of time passed, and Rama, well, gosh, this is going to be such a short form. Rama and his beloved Sita, which remember were Vishnu and Lakshmi, they were exiled from the kingdom because of another curse, and they were wandering around, and they were quite happy in their exile, and also Rama's brother was with them until Ravana, the demon king that I mentioned, abducted Sita. He took her by a terrible ruse and trickery. So at that moment, Rama kind of lost everything. Without his beloved, he had no strength. He had no Shakti. He just fell to the ground in tears. And we read or hear the story, and here Rama was the incarnation, the divine avatar. But when he was separated from his beloved, he fell apart. So Hanuman was in a tree nearby, and he saw Rama, a very kingly person, and his brother. Both they looked like princes. But they had long matted hair, and they were just wearing clothes of a forest dweller, and tears were streaming from their eyes. And Hanuman, from a distance, thought, well, who are they? They look very regal, but they're dressed as mendicants, and they're in abject sorrow. So he says, I'm going to go meet them. But he thinks that if I go talk to them as a talking monkey, they will either be afraid or they'll think I'm a demon and want to kill me. So he disguises himself. Hanuman had the power he's a shapeshifter. So he disguises himself. He takes on the form of a young priest. And he walks up to them and he says, my friends, who are you? I saw you from a distance, and you look like princes, but your sorrow is so deep. I just come to see who you are. And Rama begins to tell Hanuman who they are and the story of what has happened. And as Rama tells the story, Hanuman recognizes in him the supreme being, and he starts to tremble. And and he loses his disguise as a human, and he morphs back into this monkey, and his golden hair is standing on edge, and his body is trembling with love, and he falls down at Rama's feet, and he says, "Save me, save me, save me from the tentacles of my ego." And and Rama lifts him up, and they embrace, and their deep, deep, eternal brotherhood, friendship becomes manifest, and Rama asks Hanuman for help, and at that moment, Hanuman remembers all of his divine attributes and who he is. So the story goes on, and Hanuman could become very big, and he could become very, very little. And Rama says, "Please, please find my Sita. I have no idea where she is, and without her, all is misery." So lots of stuff happens, and Hanuman finally is told that Sita was abducted by Ravana, and she's a prisoner in the island of Lanka, which was the stronghold of the demons. So Hanuman jumped across the ocean. Nobody else, they once they knew where Sita was, they still did not know how they could get to her. But Hanuman is reminded of his powers, and he just jumps. He takes Rama's name, and he jumps across the ocean, and he lands in this kingdom of demons. And he walks around, and after a while, he sees Sita sitting under a tree, tied to the tree, and he sees that Ravana has just come up to her, and he said, and has demanded her, "You must become my wife, or you have 2 weeks to decide to become my wife, or you will become my breakfast." And Ravana stamps off with his 10 heads and 20 arms. And Hanuman takes a very small form, like the kind of the size of a teddy bear, because he doesn't want to scare Sita. And still he comes before her, and he speaks, and she's startled. And he says, "Don't be afraid of me. I am the messenger of your beloved. I'm a friend of your beloved, of Rama. And I have come to tell you that that's the picture, that Rama will be here soon with a vast army to save you and to free you." And and Hanuman says the army is made up of monkeys like me. And remember, so Hanuman was like this big. And so Sita, she says something along the lines of, "Well, that's very sweet, and it's the thought that counts. But these demons are very powerful, and you are cute." And Hanuman says, he kind of says, "Watch this," and he expands and enlarges till he's bigger, grander than the highest Himalayan mountain. And he goes to the gardens behind Ravana's palace, and he starts tearing all the trees and the fruit trees and the flower trees down and wrecking it. And Ravana, from his rooftop, thinks, "Who is that monkey who's destroying my gardens?" And he sends his son and 100,000 of the strongest of the palace guard to capture, to kill this monkey. And Hanuman, they have all this advanced weaponry, but Hanuman has his claws and his teeth and rocks and tree trunks, and he beats them and kills all the 100,000 of these fighters, and these rivers of blood. And when they're all dead, Ravana is kind of freaked out, and Hanuman is kind of howling, in this wildest, fierce nature. So Ravana turns to his eldest son, who is a master of magic, and I don't mean cards magic, but magic that can turn night into day, winter into summer, magic that can move nature. So he sends this son down and says, "Capture this monkey for me." And so Indrajit, that's his name, comes down, and he has this magical arrow that was given to him by Brahma, the creator. And this arrow has the capacity, once it's shot, to wrap itself around the victim and become adamantine steel and capture the person in that way. So Indrajit comes down to the gardens, and he shoots this arrow at Hanuman. And Hanuman says, "Oh, the arrow of Brahma. I love and revere Brahma so much that I will allow myself to be captured by this arrow out of respect to the creator of the arrow." So Hanuman is bound by this metal, and he could break out of it, but he allows himself to be dragged to the rooftop to have a conversation with Ravana. And Ravana says, "How dare you, monkey? How dare you burn down tear down my palaces and kill my guard? Who are you?" And Hanuman says, with the most diplomacy and the most tact, he says, "My name is Hanuman. I am an emissary of Rama. I am a friend of Rama. I am a messenger from Rama. Rama says to you that he will forgive you. He is the source of forgiveness, the source of love, the fountain of forgiveness. He will forgive you if you just return his beloved to him." And Ravana, in his arrogance, says, "Forgive me? He's just a human. I will kill him like I would swat a fly." And Hanuman says, "No, Rama is much, much stronger than you can imagine." And Ravana says, "Kill this monkey." But Ravana's brother, who is a very, very spiritual being, says, "No, you can't kill a messenger." It's kind of, like the laws of the international laws of war. You can't kill the messenger. So Ravana says, "Oh, okay, you're right, but we can torture him." And monkeys are very fond of their tails. So Hanuman is still bound, still tied up. And they start to soak his tail in oil and in rags and then oil. And Hanuman very sneakily starts making his tail longer and longer and longer and longer. And through his mental power, he makes it such that no one notices this. So until every drop of oil in the entire kingdom of Lanka is used to drench his tail. And then Ravana says, "Okay, I'm going to set your tail on fire." And now I always like the image because, Ravana with 10 heads and 20 arms. I imagine him with 20 big lighters, and they all go flick. And then he sets the tip of Hanuman's tail on fire. And Hanuman immediately breaks from the bonds, jumps up, sings Rama's name, and starts flying from rooftop to rooftop in this kingdom. And his father Vayu, the wind god, is blowing and blowing, so the flames are spreading and spreading and spreading until the entire palace and kingdom are burnt to the ground. And Sita, under the tree in the grove where she's imprisoned, is watching all of this happen. And when it's done, Hanuman runs to the shore of the ocean, and he prays to the god of the ocean, and he puts his tail in the water. And remember, he didn't feel any pain because he had, as a baby, received the blessings and the power of Agni, the god of fire. You don't have to even remember any of these names, but then he goes to Sita, and he becomes very small again. And he says, and Sita, like her eyes are bulging out of her head, having seen this incredible, all that Hanuman did between killing the palace guard and setting the seemingly the world on fire. And then now Hanuman is teensy like a little teddy bear again. And he says, "Mother Sita, I am the smallest and the weakest of the monkey army. Have faith. We will be here to save you." And then Hanuman becomes huge again, and he jumps back across the ocean. Um, and then he meets Rama, and Rama says to him that, all, as I said, all of this is in the Chalisa, or most of this is in the Chalisa, and it shows the many moods of Hanuman. So Rama says to him, I thank you so much. I will give you a boon, anything in this world that you want, I will give to you right now. So here, Hanuman could ask for his own universe. He could ask for planets. He could ask for, anything. And he bows to Rama and he says, bless me with pure devotion, pure love. And here's Hanuman. He's Lord Shiva. He is love. He is the incarnation, but he still asks, just bless me with devotion. And then, then this huge battle ensues and so many things happen. And suffice to say that through the help of Hanuman, Rama was able to defeat Ravana and be reunited with Sita. So, and here's when it comes to your original question. So they all fly back to Ayodhya, Rama's home, and they have this huge celebration of victory. And, while they're flying back to Ayodhya, the gods are raining flowers and lights from heaven, and all the people of Ayodhya light their archie lamps as kind of like, to make a landing strip so that they're able to see their way. And that became the festival of Diwali in India, where, it's called the Festival of Lights. And it celebrates this moment of the triumph of good over evil, and then specifically the lights guiding Rama back home. So they're having this big celebration. And Sita, the goddess, the divine mother, calls Hanuman over, and she says, Hanuman, the debt that we owe you can never be repaid. What you have done for me, for Rama, for all the civilizations of the future, all the universes, there's no way that we can repay your debt. But just as a simple token, I have this pearl necklace that I would like to put on your neck. So Hanuman bows, and Sita puts this pearl necklace around Hanuman's neck. Hanuman steps aside and he starts looking at the necklace. And remember, Hanuman also has the attributes of a monkey. So he does sometimes monkey-like things. So he's looking at these pearls, and he starts cracking them open with his teeth and spitting them out. It's very odd, And one of the ministers from the court says, Hanuman, what are you doing? The divine mother of the universe just gave you these pearls, and you're just biting into them. And Hanuman he speaks without guile at this moment, in the most vulnerable, guileless way. He says, well, all I care about is Rama and Sita. And I'm looking to see if Rama and Sita are in these beads, and they're not. So, I'm still going through the beads. Maybe I'll come upon one of the pearls, rather, and there I'll see Rama and Sita, but I'm not seeing it. And the minister is like incensed, and he says, you fool, your body is just made out of blood, muscle, and sinew. You might as well just tear your own body apart, because Rama and Sita aren't inside of you. And Hanuman looks at him and he says, it's like, really? And he retracts his paws, and his claws come out, and he digs into his flesh, and he pulls apart the skin, and blood is coming out. And there, enshrined in his heart, are Rama and Sita. And that's what the statue that you saw in Rishikesh is showing, that moment. Hanuman, in the most guileless, the epitome of vulnerability, actually opens his heart and shows that Rama and Sita are there. And that, you know, and then he clothes it and heals the wound. But there's so many aspects of the story that can be so completely inspirational to us. Well, certainly from that to try to keep our hearts open throughout our lives with people we meet, with whatever manifests to us in our life, to keep our heart open. And then Hanuman is the one who has complete devotion and humility, and yet at the same time, I shouldn't say yet, and at the same time, it is the most forceful action. There's nothing that stops him from acting when action needs to be taken, and yet his power is all in service of his love. So, that seemed like a long story, but
Beautiful.
if I really told you the long story, it would take weeks.
I know. Well, I think I'm going to revise my suggestion for a short film, and we may have to make it a major motion picture, Jai. I mean, what a story. We got some King Kong elements in there, right? Superman, and it's really incredible. And like you say, there are all these different chapters to it. And it does help me understand it a little bit and be it's just interesting to think about, we even think about Jesus on the cross with the blood and how there's something about devotion when we see that, though. It's like that you would bleed for what we love, right? I mean, that's a phrase that we
and
use.
Compassion that I mean, and of course in the story of Jesus, that he would allow himself to be put on the cross and suffer like that for the salvation of us,
Right.
of us,
right. He
humans.
loved us that much. That's a good point. That's a good comparison, right? And it's always amazing to look at these similarities of these world religions. And thank you for that, because it's truly, like I said, it's one of the, I mean, these stories are so rich. It's incredible. So
yeah, amazing.
it definitely means that it requires a deeper dive on a lot of levels. And haven't they made a movie? I think there's actually a cartoon a version of Hanuman that
There's been a bunch of movies about the Ramayana, movies about Hanuman, some animated, some with actors that have come out of India.
Oh my
and
goodness, yeah.
and they're cool, but it's a different aesthetic. Let's put it that way.
True, but it all depends. I mean, it might be an introduction to certain people that might otherwise miss the whole story. So
yeah, I like the cartoon one more than I like the.
I think that's really recent too. So Jai, in these closing moments, I'd like to bring it back to world peace. And one of the questions I'll always ask my guests is sort of where you feel we are, because I mean, you told a story that was quite violent, that had a lot of violence in it, and people were, torturing and mowing down huge troops and things like that. So we're a warring people, and I think in a lot of ways we could feel sad about where things are, and yet here we are. I always like to celebrate the opportunity that I get to, thank you, Tony Sweet. I get to bring higher messages, higher consciousness. World religion, I mean, what you just described was really an example of world religion to the masses. So we've got this technology, right, to connect, to share and to connect. And so how do you think we're doing? I mean, you've been in this for a long time, leading people on their spiritual path with your music. How do you feel we're doing?
Well, as a full-on society, I don't think we're doing that well. But I also feel that in the midst of the chaos and the war, the community is, I'll say the global community of heart-centered, spirit-centered people is getting more and more mature, more and more the practices getting more and more deep and more molecular, and with more of an understanding that what is derived from the spiritual practices must be shared. and more of a sense of the interconnectedness of us all. So so while I feel there's no denying that that it's a harsh period in our global society. There's so much divisiveness. There's so much war. There's so much cynicism, and yet we'll say our smaller family of beloveds, and I'll say that starting from my own family, then spreading out to my close friends, then spreading out to my town community, then spreading out across the U.S., and then spreading out across all the world. This community of heart-centered seekers and sharers is rising and is getting stronger and more alive and more vibrant, perhaps partially in response to the rising darkness as well. That's what I can say. I feel for myself, I'd never say for what another person should or must do, but for myself, I feel like keeping my eyes open and my awareness tuned to what's going on around me, and on the earth is important for me as a spiritual being. And sometimes I have to pull back because sometimes it can just be too much, But for me, spirituality isn't a bubble. It is in service of the greater community of humanity. We're not separate from people who are suffering there or there or there, and each one of us in our own lives, in our own way, has to find how to help others.
Yeah.
So
yeah, beautiful. And you were doing that so amazingly with your music, and thank you for this grand production of such an important prayer. It's a way that through people that know and loved you through the years will discover this devotion, just that how heartfelt truly that story is, and also the delivery that you gave it. So everybody, it's
you're so cool, Bonnie, to think that whole story is in 40 is sung in 40 verses.
I know. I mean, that's crazy. That's what I was thinking about. I mean, it's quite masterful. However, who was it who wrote it? Did I write it down?
Tulsidas. Yeah, in the 1600s.
Just crazy. So no, it's quite amazing. And just so you know, everyone, Jai has this track, this epic prayer to Hanuman, the Hanuman Chalisa for world peace, is streaming wherever it's also right here. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, I hope you leave this show and go straight over to find this on Jai's channel, along with all kinds of amazing other music. And Jai, again, I'm waiting for that major motion picture, please.
Well, we just David, the playwright I was mentioning, we're trying to get grants, big grants, to make it happen. So we'll see what happens.
Namaste. Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
It's so
Thank you so much.
It's wonderful to see you and speak with you again, and hopefully in person sometime again soon, Jai. Jai Hanuman. Thank you. Jai Hanuman. Cheers, everybody. Wow, that's an incredible learnings for me on one of the most important Hindu deities out there. And we are here to enlighten you and illuminate you with all kinds of different discoveries. That's me, Bonnie Burkert, along with Tony Sweet, every Fridays live. He gathers the community at 3 p.m. Pacific on YouTube. And Robert Hensley also has episodes every week speaking about connecting with nature in rewilding. We are here to share the light, everyone. So I hope you'll share what we're doing. You can find us with new episodes, and be sure to follow wherever you can. Until the next time, shine on. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Siya Ram, Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Siya Ram, Jai Siya Ram, Jai